manifest in your behavior and your character. So as a person with this stellium, it is of great importance that you work on character development, because it all ties in. The way you communicate ties into your character development. So if you have not done any type of character development, I know that in today's society it's not as important, but guess what? In the 1920s, 30s, 40s, character development was a major thing that people did so that they knew how to interact in society. Hi, and welcome to my channel. As you can see in today's video, I'll be talking about stellium in the third house. But if you have a stellium in the third house, hello friend, so do I. I've watched a lot of videos on stelliums in the third house and they didn't really resonate much. So I decided, as a person who has this placement, to make a video about it so that you can understand the depths of it and know that you are not alone, okay? Like, we're all struggling over here. If your stellium is also in Sagittarius, I will do a portion at the end of discussing stellium in the third house that kind of talks more about having a stellium in the third house in Sagittarius. But have no fear, I can still talk about having the third house energy clumped together with all of these planets, and how can we manage it? How do we make it better for ourselves and take the best of it and move forward in life? Before I talk about how we manage this stellium placement, I am going to describe what a stellium is, if you don't know. So a stellium is essentially like, imagine having a house with 12 bedrooms, right? And in 11 or 10, depending on if you have 2 stelliums in your placement, imagine 10 of the bedrooms, easy to clean, just like takes 5 minutes to clean, no problem, on to the next, right? But the bedroom with the stellium, it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of patience, a lot of attention. It needs more attention because in this life, this is kind of it's like hyper focus on how you channel this energy. You came here to work through this energy, master this energy, and surpass it, transform, like become a phoenix and fly out of the ashes. But it is annoying and it can be crippling for a lot of people depending on the placement. So with this particular placement, it being in a third house, the third house is ruled by Mercury and Gemini. So it's all about communication, but it also is about siblings or relatives that are not your immediate parents. So aunts and uncles, cousins. It affects the way you communicate with family, neighbors, but it also affects the way you're perceived by other people because of the way you present yourself through communication. But I'll get into that a little more. So if you have the stellium placement, it deeply affects the way you gather and relay information to others, especially siblings, cousins, neighbors, and like even on short trips. Like, you're probably the type of person that enjoys traveling. Even if you've never traveled a lot, you have wanderlust, adventurelust of some sort, especially if you have the Sagittarius placement. Everything about this will prefix adventurelust if you have Sagittarius in a third house. And a stellium in the third house is like having a neon sign flashing like, hey. This is a very influential placement because it affects the mind, the way you communicate, the way you digest and process and communicate information. And this is a big deal because depending on which planets you have, so for example, if you have the Sun, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter in the third house, that means that you have to focus on, it's kind of like you take the energy of the sun, right? So if your sun is in Leo, for example, Leo rules the sun already. So then you're gonna go find where's Leo in your chart. Which house does Leo rule? Look at how the energies of those houses can kind of like add up the energy. So like So you have a Leo in 8 degrees. 8 degrees is ruled by Scorpio. So then you'll have like, so basically your energy is influenced by Leo, Scorpio, Gemini, and whatever planet rules your third house. And it kind of helps you hyper focus that energy into purpose, if that makes sense. I might have to describe that a little better. I'm sorry. So do you have trouble getting along with people or feeling connected to people? If that is the case, it has to do with your stellium in this placement. And I say that because I have this placement. So like a lot of times I feel I have imposter syndrome like crazy, or I feel like I'm going to say the wrong thing, so I shouldn't say anything at all. Or I feel like some things that people complain about aren't a fucking big deal to me. So like when people come to me and like they're emotionally dumping, I feel like an asshole when it's time for me to say my opinion, because my opinion usually isn't as weighted or emotional as other people's. And that reflects in how people treat you. Like the way you treat others, and I know that's like cliche, but with this placement it's like hyper-focused. The way you treat and communicate to others reflects in how they treat you. So if you live in a neighborhood and you never spoke to your neighbors, but at the same time you want to feel a sense of community in your neighborhood, the reason you don't have it is because of you, not because of them. Like but it is your job, if you want something to go smoothly in communication, especially for, like I said, aunt, uncle, siblings, cousins, neighbors, anyone that is not an immediate relative, but they're still close in proximity. That's on you to facilitate that line of communication and show them that you're open-minded, or show them who you are and how your mind works, and like stop judging yourself so much for thinking like, oh, I'm too harsh, because the beauty of it is no one is you. No one will ever be you. And the more you show up as yourself and communicate your perspective, the better it will be for everyone. Because the beauty of, like, it's so beautiful, because you might think like this is normal, right? You might think, oh, whatever, this is just how I think is normal. But the way you think is not normal for a lot of people. Like a lot more people need to hear it. And especially with third house energy, it's almost like a part of your purpose is to teach others how you learn and work through things, because a lot of people need a blueprint or a guide, like, or they don't have the experience, or they don't have the same processing system as you, so that it's more difficult. But since you're here to do the work in this house, your ability to process, even though it seems very difficult and annoying at times, you are constantly doing the work much more than other people, and it shows. Even if you don't see it, even if you feel like you're so far behind, you're not. Like, you're really not. One of the biggest lessons that I had to learn having a third house stellium is that I need to listen twice as much as I speak. And that is like an old Jamaican proverb, like you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, therefore you should listen twice as much as you speak. And it took me a long time to learn it, but if you have this placement, it is key that you kind of get a rein on your babble mouth energy, because you probably babble mouth a lot. Like, you say a lot of things before thinking, and you feel like you have no filter. You feel like you just have word vomit. And it's not easy to do so, but being aware of that habit of yours makes it easier, that every time it comes up, you get better and better and better. It literally took me 10 years, from the age of 16 to the age of 26, before I actually was able to see the results in my communication. I felt like yeah, I just felt like no one liked me, honestly. I felt like no one liked me, and I felt like I communicated too harshly, too bluntly, because it's like I value honesty over everything, and I value reality, and I value truth. But some people can't handle the truth in the way that you say it. They want it to be nicely laid out with sprinkles, and that's just not how most of us process information. We process it to be tangible and relatable and helpful, but some people's need the babyfied version, and sadly that's usually not the case if you have a third house stellium, unless it's in Cancer. But some Cancers are assholes, so probably not. Anyways, so a lesson for a person with displacement is to be an effective speaker, but also a great listener, because the key of communication is to actually listen, to hear, not to respond. Like, you're listening to actually hear and relate and connect with someone, not to respond. And people can see that. People can see the moment that you're like, your brain goes, ah, and you're just like waiting, you're just like, but they know you're not listening anymore. You're just waiting to say what you want to say, and that's pretty insensitive a lot of times, and it's not received well. With the listening, the way we filter information is different, right? So like I said, it really depends on what planets are in this placement, and maybe I can make a second video about the planets in this placement, because it'll be like ridiculous. It'll be like an hour and 30-minute long video if I were to break down every planet, how it relates, and every sign and every degree, because it's so many scenarios. But I might make a formula video, how you can break down your own formula and figure out how it affects you personally. But this is an overall synopsis of this placement. Yeah, so the way we process information, like, are you the type of person that when someone's speaking to you, do you automatically think that they're trying to get something out of you, like that they're ingenuine, that they're too positive, or they're too negative? Or do you always, when you hear someone speaking, do you only hear the negative qualities and not the positive qualities? This is very important to understand about yourself and the way you process information, because your mind is everything. Like, literally, heaven and hell is in your mind if no one has told you already. So if you're always thinking of something in a negative light, you're going to attract negative circumstances and negative outcomes. And if you're trying to see the positive in something, you'll attract more positive outcomes and circumstances. So with this placement, it is important. Like people lie, yes, people do lie, but like you can't just go off that like thinking, oh well, everyone's a liar, so what does it matter? I shouldn't listen to them. Like, that's not the mindset you want to go in with, because everyone has something to teach you, for sure. Another lesson if you have this placement is to reflect on how you share what you know. And this goes back to like how you perceive people's information and how you relay that back to them. Like I said, I struggled with this as a kid. I definitely just said whatever came to my mind about a person, and normally I was right, but I was mean. It was mean. It wasn't tactful. It wasn't graceful. It was just flat out mean and unnecessary. So before you respond, reflect on your thoughts. Think about how it can be received from that person, because there's a million ways to say the same thing without hurting a person so that they can receive it. So if you don't know the person that well, I really don't have advice for that. Like, you just read their energy. But if you do know the person very well, like, reflect on how others may feel, but also reflect on how you are going to deliver your message to them. Like there's two types of people with this placement. Like you're either eager to share your thoughts, like so eager that you overtalk people, or you're hesitant to share your thoughts because you're scared of their reaction. You're scared of how they're going to respond to your response, which is a big thing with this placement because we typically do not think like other people, and we never will, and that's the beauty of it. But it's also the scary part of it because ultimately everyone wants to be like appreciated or liked in some way. Even though we know everyone won't like us, we don't want to leave a bad taste in people's mouth on purpose. Like I don't think there's many people going around doing that. I know that with this energy, especially if you have Sag in this energy, you're probably like extremely enthusiastic and optimistic when communicating, and then they have people with other placements in this energy like Scorpio who will be smooth and mysterious and reserved, but still tactful, still direct, still honest. There's plenty of ways to communicate, and you have to find your own. So another lesson is paying attention to how you interact with others. And this goes back to what I said in the beginning, how like if you don't have a nice relationship with your neighbors, it's probably because of you, especially if that's something you want. Like, do you give people the cold shoulder when if someone says good morning to you? Do you say good morning back, or do you just glare at them? Like, all of these are things that we need to consider when interacting with people because it reflects on your character, which is kind of the whole key of like communication, right? So like your character is shown in how, like, okay, so for example, say you meet someone and y'all hitting it off and getting along, and then all of a sudden like they do something to a stranger that's just flat out rude in your opinion, right? And then when they tell you the reasoning behind it, they say, oh, it's because they breathe on my neck too hard or something stupid like that, right? The thing is the mental processing of that thought, the fact that they thought, oh, I'm going to be an asshole to this person because they breathe on my neck, is how you process information. So that reflects in your behavior and your character. So as a person with this stellium, it is of great importance that you work on character development, because it all ties in. The way you communicate ties into your character development. So if you have not done any type of character development, I know that in today's society it's not as important, but guess what? In the 1920s, 30s, 40s, character development was a major thing that people did so that they knew how to interact in society. So if you have social anxiety, if whatever the case may be, if you feel uncomfortable in large spaces, if you feel uncomfortable around people, if you feel uncomfortable just talking to a normal person on the street, I advise you to work on character development, because it will change your life and it will give you much more confidence wherever you go. So like I said, being aware of this is only half of the battle, because you need to know if you're moody, if you're passive aggressive, if you're overly aggressive, if you're judgmental, if you're abrasive. Like, all of these things are a reflection of your mind, not other people's. So the quicker that you learn these things about yourself, the faster that you can start to work on them and improve on them and develop your character, because that's really what's of most importance. And like I said, I have the sun. What do I have in the third house? I have the sun, Mercury, Mars, and North Node. What else? Sun, Mercury, Mars, North Node, and I think Neptune. I honestly can't remember. No, it's not Neptune. Yes. So that's the planets that I have in the third house. So basically for me, it will be like the sun is your identity, right? Mars is your aggression, passion. Mercury is the way you communicate, and the North Node is your true North Star, which you came here to, your sole purpose to fulfill, the energy you came to fulfill in this life. So with that being said, I have to hyper focus on those aspects of myself as far as my character and how I'm received, because usually those planets have a heavier weight. It's like an anchor at the bottom, and it's like you're trying to pull the anchor up so that it's not as heavy anymore, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm doing my best. So like, are you passive aggressive, moody, self-absorbed, or passive in relationships? Like say your sister said something mean to you, right? And instead of confronting her about it, you just stop talking to her. You just stop talking to her for weeks, and then finally, once you're over it, you decide to talk to her again. That's not healthy. That's not healthy communication habits, because a lot of things can be easily resolved with a conversation. And I'm telling you, it's easier said than done. Look, there's still certain people that I have left on red, okay? I'm not saying I'm a perfect, shining example of this placement. I'm just saying that I'm working on it, right? And I'm willing to help you and teach you what I've learned so far. But eventually, you wouldn't want that weight. And then you also don't want that lingering resentment or energy of anger, because it's only affecting you. That anger, that toxicity is only affecting you. You're drinking your own poison. So but the more we work on ourselves, and the more we develop our character, and the more we show up in rooms fully and authentically as ourselves without feeling shame or judgment or fear for expressing ourselves, I think the better the world will be for everyone, including us. The sooner we're aware of how we behave, the sooner we can understand how it's affecting others and why others treat us a certain way. And it kind of eliminates the victim mentality if you have one. Yeah, so like if you find that everyone seems annoyed with you in public, like there's probably a reason. There's something about the way you're carrying yourself, the way you're speaking, the way you're looking at others, that's causing that energy to be sent back to you. It's not happening for no reason. And it's interesting because I've always felt like when I walk into a room, people didn't like me and I literally wouldn't do anything. But maybe, let me think, maybe I'm too closed off. Maybe I ooze so much confidence that I'm not even aware of. Like, because that's the thing too. You might have an air of confidence about you and be so insecure on the inside, and then other people are looking at you like, oh, who does she think he is? And you're like, I don't think I'm anything actually. But, you know, such is life. So, how do you read the stellium in the third house? Major players will be the sun, moon, or your chart ruler. So if you have a Libra or Taurus rising, your chart ruler will be Venus. So if Venus is there, it's a major player. If you have a Scorpio rising, then Pluto will be your major player. If you have a Sagittarius rising, then Jupiter would be your major player, and the list goes on and on. But that's the first things you want to pinpoint when reading your stellium in the third house. So if you have these placements, these planets in your stellium, then it probably is pulling very hard on, like, they're pulling very heavily on you and your influence in your life and what you need to do in this life. Especially when it comes to getting your needs and their needs met. And also, if you have a planet that's in dignity, it'll be magnified in the third house energy. If you don't know what dignity is, I could make a video about it. It's a lot of information. The planets are this close together, they're most likely conjunct, and when they're conjunct, that means they work together harmoniously. That's definitely my case. My Sun and Mars are conjunct, and my Venus and Mercury are conjunct, meaning they work my mind and my love, the way I love, the beauty of aesthetics, the way I perceive. A lot of things are conjunct, and then my Sun and Mars, which is my identity, and then how I put out myself in the world through passion, are conjunct. So the good thing about this is where it gets fun. So if you write down what your placements are, you can write down the degrees of those placements. And like I said, there's the degree theory, which I can make a video about for you. But the short version of the degree theory slash, I like to say your magic formula for yourself is that you will add the degree. So like I said, 8th degree is Scorpio. So if any of your planets are in 8th degree, you will call that planet whatever it is. So say like you have a Venus in Gemini, that's in 8th degree. So that is a Scorpio Gemini Venus, right? But since Venus is ruled by Libra and Taurus, depending on which one you want to pull the energy from, it's really a Scorpio Gemini Taurus placement. And then you're going to take that, right, those 3 signs, combined with the energy of Venus, most importantly because that's the planet that's rotating. Take all of those signs, take all of the qualities of those signs, the strengths, the weaknesses, and everything, and use that as a formula of how you move through Venetian energy. And then it goes forward with everything else. Like if you have Jupiter in 12 degrees, that'll be, well, which planet would, I guess, if you have like a Scorpio Jupiter in 12 degrees, right? The 12th degree is the Pisces degree. So you have a Pisces Scorpio Jupiter, which means it's Pisces, Scorpio, Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So it's really Pisces, Scorpio, Sag. You're going to take those 3 energies, combine them, combine their qualities, combine every aspect of it, and those 3 energies will be the magic formula to move forward in your Jupiter energy. And the list goes on, and it's really a lot to take in, but nevertheless, this is how you will channel your energies, focus your energies, and ultimately figure out the game plan that's properly suited for you to become your best self and apply these qualities into your life and make it easier for you, because no one's you, and it's always going to be unique. It's always going to be unique to you, even though we might share this stellium energy. The way you process it, the way you apply it to your life will be completely different from mine, because I have different degrees. I have different planets. For example, if you have Libra, whatever, you can have, say, for example, if your 3rd house is in Libra, right? Libra is all about understanding and community and close relationships, harmonious relationships. So if you have Libra in the 3rd house, you're probably going to be more of a people pleaser type of communicator, and you'll probably have to work on standing your ground and setting firm boundaries for your own sake and not for the sake of others. For the Sagittarius, for people with Mercury and Sagittarius, more than likely, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I know that with my stellium, I used to always be a very optimistic communicator, or I'll see the positive side. I can see the negative side, of course, but whenever people come to me with things, I'm a solution-based person, but I'm also all about, I'm about that action. I'm about going on an adventure. I'm about doing something if it's worth it, if it's worth the while. I don't really have fear of missing out as much as I have fear of wasting my time, especially if it's not bringing value to me, because there's a lot of amazing things going on in the world, but does it matter to me? Does it bring my life more purpose? Does it fulfill my every desire? I'm the type that wants to travel. I want to use my energy to travel and meet people and go to places and immerse myself in different cultures and learn as much as I can about those cultures, because that's what my stellium is guided towards. Like, I'm guided towards being effective communicator in multiple languages, you know, like, so everyone's going to be different, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, that's just normal. Everybody's fucking different. So basically, like, using these examples will help with how you communicate with the world, period. It'll help the way you communicate with the world, the way you present yourself to the world, the way you process the world information, and it'll make sense. Like, there's nothing better than that eureka moment when you do the magic formula, that I like to call it. Once you do the magic formula and you really like pay attention to the energies of the placement, and you go, oh my God, this is why I do this. Like, everything that you probably second guessed about yourself is going to be solidified from that moment on, and you're not going to question it anymore. Like, but I will say this, if you have Sagittarius in this placement, it's of great importance that you exercise, okay? Sagittarius rules the thighs, so most of your best, if you feel like you have like a jumbled mind and nothing's getting through clearly, it is of importance that you exercise. Do leg day. Like, don't skip leg day, okay? Because the more you apply energy and inertia into your lower region, the more clarity you will get, the more you'll be able to plan, the more you'll be able to execute, the more you'll be able to communicate, and the more optimism you will have for life, because all of the tension that is stuck, the stagnant energy, because that's really all it is. And I'm not saying just because you don't have Sagittarius, don't do this. I'm just saying that Sagittarius rules the thighs. Every sign has a body part it rules. So find that sign, find your body part, and figure out how you can take care of it so you can better take care of your mind and better take care of the world. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this was helpful. Yes, so I'm gonna make a video soon about the degree placements and all of those things, but y'all have a great day, and as always, take care of yourself.